Hello and welcome to Love Brand You on Win Win Women TV. I'm Sam Rafis, your host for this metaphysical show focused on faith and inspiration for you to succeed in all areas of your life. And as we do each week, we open our show with the Love Brand You prayer. So if you would like to just settle into your chair, take a deep breath, ground yourself, whatever it is that you can do to let these words sink in for you. My God source loves me no matter what. I am always lovable and give myself compassion for everything I've ever done or not done. Love heals me more quickly than self-judgment. I choose love now for me and for everyone in my life. For this, I give thanks. I let it be so, and so it is. Amen. So today, I am super excited to have a conversation with my special guest, Jennifer K. Hill. Let me tell you a little bit about her before I dive in with so many questions for Jennifer. So, Jennifer is an author, speaker, TV and radio host, entrepreneur, and thought leader. She's written 2 books and has authored 2 popular white papers as well. Jennifer built and sold her first company by the age of 38. She has hosted popular TV shows on Awake TV with Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Rollin McCraty, Dr. Dain Heer, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. John Demartini, and many other leaders from around the world. She's also moderated events, including a 2020 talk at UCI with Dean Bill Maurer, Professor Don Hoffman, and again, Dr. Deepak Chopra. Jennifer recently hosted the Global Coherence Initiative, it's the largest event of the year with over 600 people from around the world, which featured another of my favorites, Greg Braden, Howard Martin, Dr. James Miles, and several others. When she is not hosting or speaking, Jennifer loves to give back and has built 2 schools in third world countries, and she has recently started a new company in the energy medicine space to support people around the world while connecting to the health and vitality already within them. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Sam. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
I'm so happy for you to be here. I always start out with my guests to just tell us a little bit about where you came from. And by that, I know I read in your bio that you just, started a company, sold it by the age of 38. So tell us about that and how you ended up here.
Well, it's funny, Sam, we were speaking offline and I was lamenting my birthday is March 1st. And when my best girlfriend, when I was 18 years old, opened up her book of birthdays, and she said to me so excitedly, "Oh, you are the week of the spiritual." And I kind of gave a little giggle. This is 20 years back. And I said, "No, I'm not. I am definitely not that person. You have the wrong person, wrong week, wrong birthday." And so throughout my life, I never really thought of myself as spiritual. I went to church of my own accord when I was very young. And then I kind of turned away from the light, if you want to call it that. And I went down the dark hole, call it a dark night of the soul, whatever you want it, between 16 to 21. And I played with my shadow self. And then I built a recruiting company, sold it. And I truly believe from an energetic standpoint, I needed to go through that experience in order to be able to clear past karma and different experiences I had, so that now I can fulfill my purpose on this planet, which is to bring health, wholeness, and vitality to everyone and to connect that to each and every one of us, that we already are whole, complete, and perfect. And in fact, if I may, there's a beautiful story about this that I'd love to share that kind of relates to the Dalai Lama and Greg Braden, if you're game for it, Sam.
Absolutely.
So in 2020, through a series of events, I was in Paris on my couch on March 7th in 2020, right as COVID is peaking. And at that point, I just started hosting shows with Deepak Chopra. And I'm reading Greg Braden's book, Divine Matrix. Didn't know who Greg was. I forget how I even picked up the book. And I remember clear as day, I'm looking out at the Eiffel Tower and I read the lines, the square root of 1% of the population meditating at the same time can shift the consciousness of the planet. So I put down the book, stand up, call Deepak, call Amanda Masters, call HeartMath, start calling everybody I know. Amanda's the founder of Awake TV. And I said, guys, we need to do a global meditation ASAP. I just read Greg's book. We need to make this happen. And so we start calling around and Deepak says, of course I'm in. So we get all of these people. And one of the things that happened, Deepak said, well, I'll ask the Dalai Lama. He's a friend. I'll ask His High Holiness if he can join us. So after I hang up, we now have numerous people on board. We want to get hundreds of thousands of people meditating on March 9th. And I go into a meditative state. And one of the things I love to do when I meditate is tap into the consciousness of people alive or deceased and just kind of ask for wisdom. So I tapped into His High Holiness's consciousness and I said, Your High Holiness, this is Jennifer. I'm a friend of Deepak's. He's going to be reaching out about an event. And I just wanted to extend a metaphysical invitation to you. This is all in meditation, not speaking out loud. And, wanted to extend this invitation. So the response I get in my heart is, thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate the invitation. It'll be not the right time for me. It would have been 12:30 a.m. for him around India or Tibet. And he says to me, though, before you do this, Jennifer, may I offer some advice? And I said, please. And he said, think about why you are doing this. If you are doing this from a place of needing to fix the world and the people in it, you won't make the difference you're intending to make. However, if you come to this event from a perspective of seeing the world and everyone in it as whole, complete, and perfect, then you will be able to make the impact that you want. And that was my metaphysical conversation with the Dalai Lama.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I could feel it.
Yeah. It's very powerful. I do that. In fact, another funny segue around that. Last December, I think Deepak and Don and I am not a quantum physicist. I'm not a scientist. I have an undergrad in psychology. And I was preparing for an episode on special relativity with Deepak and Don, which I know nothing about. And so I was praying, I was meditating. I'm like, God, give me strength. I was reading Stephen Hawking's book. I was just trying to devour anything I could on special relativity. So I prayed that morning before our 10 p.m. recording that night. And I said, God, help me. I don't know how I'm going to get through the interview tonight. And I kid you not, clear as day, God said, ask Einstein. I'm like, A, Einstein's dead, and B, how? And same thing. So God just said, an hour before your interview with Deepak and Don, go into a meditative state and ask Einstein, and he'll tell you everything you need to know. And Sam, as I went into that meditative state, I just did my normal mantra meditation and I dropped deep. And I was like, Mr. Einstein, Mr. Albert Einstein, are you there? And so Einstein just comes right in, and I could tell because I started reverse swirling, which I guess is something that happens when you drop out of time and space. And Einstein starts just taking me through time, space, explaining special relativity. The irony was I actually didn't want to do the interview with Deepak and Don. I just wanted to go play in space-time with Einstein. So I love tapping into these altered states when I'm in a meditative state. So.
Oh, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, we have so much to talk about, because when I'm talking with anyone, I always say, well, I do what I teach. I go into that meditative state. I pray, I ask for guidance. And we were talking about it before we came on about that and the synchronicities that you and I had with you coming here, being on the show. And then just before that, you mentioned your birthday, March 1st. And anyone that knows me knows that my grandson is born March 1st and he is my number one guy. So that's amazing. Okay. I want to get to the good news that you shared with me too. I think this is okay. Viewers, I had questions for Jennifer and I think we've thrown them all out the window. So we are literally just like Jennifer said, don't worry about it. The conversation will flow, and you can see that it is flowing. So tell us about your good news.
Oh, I'm so excited, Sam, to be able to share it on your show today. One of the things that Deepak did is he created a group called the Evolutionary Leaders. which is a group of leaders, visionaries, scientists, thought leaders from around the world who are committed to uplifting the consciousness of humanity. And I was gratefully and graciously nominated last year for it, and just found out yesterday that I was accepted. And I'm so thrilled and happy and delighted. And to top it all off, I have about 4 other dear thought leader friends who are all in the same class as me that were accepted. So what a miracle to be accepted and to have people who I love and adore and respect be on this journey with me.
That is, when you were talking about that, I was like, tell me more. And then I looked and I was like, wait, we have to record. Can you share with us who those people are and a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the Evolutionary Leaders includes many visionaries from around the world. Again, Deepak was one of the ones who created it initially, Greg Braden, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Michael Beckwith, who I heart Michael. Agape was my first real foray into, spirituality. When I came out of the dark night of the soul, a dear friend brought me to Agape when I was probably 23 or 24 years old, and really was instrumental. To this day, I still try to attend Agape services when I can online.
Wow. And you talk about the dark night of the soul, and I can relate. And I feel a little bit when you're talking, you were raised in a certain environment, and then, you turn away from it and you think, what, me spiritual? And there's just so many synchronicities, and the pathway that we take and the people that we're led to are just such a big part of that journey. So with Deepak, and I had mentioned Dr. Bruce Lipton. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he is one of my favorites with the biology of belief, and I love his energy. That book was, I think I read it, it's got to be at least 10 years ago. He wrote it that. It feels like I read it a long time ago. However, it made such an impact on me. What led Dr. Bruce Lipton to be on your show, and what was that journey?
That was a funny story. So it actually ties back into the March 9th thing. So I now have on my LinkedIn and friends list, like every now and again, I'll get like a constant contact email open alert that Oprah or Bill Gates opened, because what happened was on the March 9th thing, I was no holds bar. I was like, I don't care. I was reaching out to the mayor of Paris. I reached out to Bill Gates and Oprah, and Bruce was one of the many people I reached out to. And I just one by one went and tracked these people down to invite them to participate in the global meditation we did. And Bruce was so kind and gracious. I had found his email and he's like, thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm going to be on a flight from New Zealand that day. I can't make it. And so I just kind of stayed in touch with him. And after I'd been working with Deepak for a while, one day it occurred to me and I said, I don't think I've ever seen anything that Deepak and Bruce have done together. And so I called Deepak. I'm like, Deepak, would you want to have a conversation with Bruce and we could talk about science and spirituality? And he said, of course, Jennifer. So then I reached out to Bruce and Bruce's people. And I said, do you want to have a conversation with Deepak? And they said, yeah. And I said, great. And it was so perfect because actually on my birthday, March 1st, 2021 was the day that we recorded the episode, which was just so spectacular and miraculous. And then the episode aired after we edited it a couple months later. And you can find it on YouTube and many other places. But if you Google Deepak's name and Bruce's name, it's the first thing that pulls up.
Wow. Do you ever ask yourself what led you to like hosting the TV? Like, what was that? Like, and honestly, I'm thinking, how am I going to ask her these questions? Because there's so many in my head.
I feel you. So actually, that's one of my favorite stories. Synchronicity. My life, if you were going to give it a title, a book title, it should be titled Synchronicities. So my husband and I used to live in New York, and one of the gentlemen who lived in our building, God rest his soul, he unfortunately passed away, Michael K. Williams, is a famous actor. And one night we went out for dinner with him, just such a beautiful, incredible spirit. He was doing a lot of work with children in inner city areas and wanted to know what I was doing with schools. And during our dinner conversation, he mentions to me his dream coach goalie. And he says, Jen, my dream coach goalie has changed my life. She works with A-list actors. She helps them divine their next roles. So at this point, this was probably a year into me selling my company. And I was like, okay, well, I have a contract at this company that I sold. And I didn't know what was next. Maybe I would have gone on just running the company. And so I said, well, Michael, that sounds really cool. Can you introduce me to your dream coach? I'd love to do work. I've always been in the play and sphere of meditation. And I thought, oh, that sounds really fascinating. So he introduces me to Goli, who is just this beautiful, beautiful soul. And talk about synchronicities. It was funny. Goli was coaching somebody. Well, I diverge. So what happens is that Goli and I connect, and she gives me my dream assignment. And she's like, oh, my love, here's how it's going to go. We meet in Beverly Hills at this fabulous hotel. And she's like, you're going to write this down. And there's a specific way that you have to ask for your higher self to come through. So she talks me through it. And she is really something else and spectacular. So that night I go into it with very low expectations, not knowing what to expect. And I say, dear higher self, please show me through symbols, et cetera, what is my purpose? And so I go to sleep that night, and she said, keep a pen and paper next to the bed. And I wrote down a couple of things that came to me in the dream. And one that stood out was a male newscaster who was very proper, very well put together. And so I'm recounting this with Goli the next day. And Goli, without me missing a beat, she says, oh, my love, you're going to be a TV host. And I was just laughing. I said, I am not going to be a TV host, Goli. I said, I just sold my company. I'm under contract with the company that bought me. Like, there is no way in heck that I could even do that if I wanted to. I'd done a lot of TV stuff when I was younger. And she said, no, my love, you're going to be a TV host. And I kid you not, synchronicities through a series of events, November 1st of 2019, I left the old company and moved into a consulting role. They were able to run it without me. And that same day, I was offered a TV hosting gig with Awake TV, which I also was offered that same exact day, an opportunity to co-moderate the event with Deepak Chopra and Don Hoffman at UC Irvine. Like 3 things all lined up that exact week that I left. And I couldn't have even planned it had I wanted to plan being a TV host. It just was the furthest thing that I could have orchestrated if I had tried to on the conscious plane, if you want to call it that.
And I'm laughing because it's that saying, we make plans and God laughs.
Yeah, it's like I was planning, okay, I'm going to be in LA, I have this 5-year contract. And of course you tie COVID into all of this. And it was so miraculous because of COVID. Deepak and Don and I were able to record about 15 episodes from around the world. And had COVID not happened, who knows? The first episode that Deepak and I did was in studio. And it was funny when Carolyn, his old person who used to run his company, called me one day. She said, okay, Deepak wants a car here. He'll meet you at the studio at this time. And I'm like, I don't even know where to find a studio. I was like, it was just so out of left field, but you just flow. You're like, okay, the universe is giving this to me. I am just going to create capacity and space to hold the container for this.
So on that vein, and we viewers, Jennifer and I talked about this before we came on air. When you said, whatever you ask me, I'm in a state of flow, and we did that exercise, which I hope we can end with. I'm watching my time here because I would love to end with that, Jennifer. How can you teach our viewers to live in that state of flow?
The most important thing is to breathe. When we breathe, my vocal coach, who has changed my life for the better, I have so many people I attribute my success to. I would not be where I am today if it weren't for Kabbalah. Go check out the weekly energy boost. They transformed my life, and so many other people. But shout out to Arthur Samuel Joseph, who trained, among other people, I don't follow basketball, Dwayne Wade, Pierce Brosnan, Tony Robbins. I think some people might know him, but that's my vocal coach and now business partner for another endeavor, where we created a program called Achieve, Reclaim, and Command Your Destiny. And if anybody is interested, you can email me, and we can either put it up, or I can give my email one of the excerpts from the class that we created for that's a freebie that we give out. And that class on conscious loving breath, which ironically, Sam, ties into the exercise that we do. I combined Arthur's work with HeartMath's work to create that exercise that I took you through earlier. And when we breathe, when we allow, when we take a breath, like if I say, take a breath, you go, and it's reactive. When you allow a deep, conscious, loving breath, you expand. And so often as human beings, we are on autopilot. We're thinking on autopilot. If we're thinking at all, we're speaking on autopilot. And there's no conscious awareness to how we live our lives. And when we begin to implement something like a conscious, loving breath, what it does, it connects us to the moment, to that stillness, to that now. And it helps us to turn down the noise. If you want to hear your soul, you want to hear your higher self, you want to hear God or the divine, it's important that we breathe, we meditate, and we connect to that divinity within us and within each other. And when we do this, we have a capacity to be the human beings we've always wanted to be instead of the human doings that we live our lives as.
Ooh, this is so powerful. I get caught up in what you're talking about, and I want to go into meditation or the exercise we did, and then I bring myself back and go, wait a second here, you have to help generate this conversation. So in that vein, how does this correlate with your new company?
So Om Heals, om-heals.com is the company that my extraordinary, incredible business partner, Moon Cho, and I co-founded together. It was her baby, and I was invited in to co-birth it with her. She is a famous influencer on YouTube with about 300,000 YouTube subscribers. And through a series of synchronicities, actually, it's remarkable that I realized just in this moment, Sam, how it ties back in full circle to how today's conversation began. Remember that March 9th event that I told you that I reached out to everybody and their brother around the world? Well, one of the people who happened to hear about it, because we had far reach, we had so many people around the world join us that day for that event, was an incredible thought leader who's also an evolutionary leader named Sister Jenna. She has americameditating.org, and she hosts meditation radio. So I get a Facebook message the day of our big event that night with Deepak and everyone saying, hi, Jennifer, this is Sister Jenna, and I'd love to have you on my America Meditating radio show today. And out of that connection, I heart Sister Jenna. She is a beautiful soul, has a new book coming out. We should get her on your show. She is extraordinary. And Sister Jenna invited me to an online retreat. They used to do an in-person one, but of course in 2020 it was remote. And in the first Zoom room that I get put into, that's like a group one, we start off all together and then we do a breakout session. I get put in a room, Sam, with my now business partner, Moon Cho, and with Jean Houston. And I didn't know who Jean was. So
Jean Houston?
Jean's also very.
Oh.
So I say to Jean, I have no clue who she is. I've never heard of her before. And I said, oh, hi, Jean, what do you do? And she's like, I'm the keynote speaker. So we had a little giggle about that. And then Moon and I talked very briefly. I mean, it was just a very short, like 3-5-minute breakout room. So I'm pretty decent about following up with people who I meet. And I sent Moon a follow-up on LinkedIn. Well, fast forward, it's October, and I have now left corporate world. I'm consulting a little bit. I'm like, I'm done with corporate. And Moon and I get on a call, and she's my soul sister. We just start talking, and she says, oh, I missed your LinkedIn message. Let's connect. So she starts telling me about how she left the entertainment industry working for the Coppolas because her sister's son died of cancer. And so her sister's son died, and she decided to devote her life to health and healing. And she said, Jen, I want to bring forth a company that's going to match energy medicine practitioners with users from around the world. And at first she was just looking for an advisor. And I said, oh, okay, I might be willing to do that. And then about a few weeks in, she says, actually, I really want a co-founder. You want to be that person? I was like, oh dear. I was like, God, are you sure you want me to do this? I thought I was done in the corporate world. And I just prayed and meditated. And through a series of synchronicities, it was so fortuitous. Her sister's son's birthday was April 4th. And the day our articles of incorporation, through no way we could have controlled it, happened to be April 4th. So my life is just full of miraculous synchronicities.
They're synchronicities because you've learned to allow that, and not to put anything on you, but just from our conversation and just through the synchronicity of how you ended up being here through our mutual friend. And viewers, again, you cannot make this stuff up, that I knew I wanted you on today's show. However, when you and I talked, I was like, you know what? I know that Jen has a lot on. I know that you had so much on, and I just thought, I'm not even going to tell her what I want. And I remember saying to you, what do you have open? And you just looked at your calendar, and I said Thursdays and you're like, well, at this moment in time, the only day I have open is this date. And I just went, perfect. Thank you.
I love it. Yeah. And it's so beautiful to tie in the earlier thing we were talking about offline as well. I always tell people when I host my shows, I wish we could almost record the whole thing from the moment we come on, because there's so much juice and fun stuff. And Dr. Todd Ovakaitis, who joined me on my show on Awake TV, had told me to add into my evening practice, in addition to listing the things I'm grateful for, acknowledging how I could have lived the day better and what I'm proud of myself for. Dr. Todd also said, Jen, I invite you to also write down every evening before you go to sleep what moments of synchronicity you experienced and what moments of awe and wonder. And that has changed my life in the most profound way, because what we focus on appears. And so because I've now begun focusing even more than I was before on miracles, synchronicities, awe, and wonder, my life is just abounding with more than I could have ever dreamed of.
And through this conversation, it's apparent. And and I'm looking at my time here, and I do want you to end us off with the exercise you and I did. So in order to do that, I need to ask you a couple things before we do that. So one, I want you to share how people can get a hold of you. What's the best way, because our viewers always want to know that. And two, I want you to leave them with what your words of wisdom are before I get you to lead us or to take us out with that exercise that you and I did.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's been such a pleasure being here with you and with all of you out there as well. So the best ways to get in touch with me, you can follow me on most social at Jen Hill Speaker on Instagram and other things. You'll see me promoting on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Global Coherence Pulse happening this Saturday. It's free to join us. Gary Malkin, another evolutionary leader, is going to be on playing his profound music. You can go to Jennifer K. Hill, K as in kite, HILL.com. And if you sign up down at the bottom and put Sam's name in there, write Sam, or let me know that you saw me on this show, I will gladly give you the free module from Arthur in my program on conscious loving breath that we referenced earlier. And as for the advice that I would leave you with, listen to your soul. Your soul has all of the answers that you will ever desire to learn. And the quickest way to listen to your soul is to love yourself and give yourself the space and time to be who you are and just to be.
That perfectly ties into what I tell people: transform from the inside out.
Yes.
And that's what I like to do with the people that I work with, or any of my viewers. And we have exactly enough time for you to take us out with that exercise, and then we'll say goodbye. Or till next time.
Until
Okay.
we meet again. Do you want me to do the shorter version of it, Sam?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely. Great. Thank you.
So I invite everybody to just go ahead and eat with your eyes open or closed, whatever feels comfortable for you. Imagine allowing a deep, conscious, loving breath going right in through the center of your heart. And as you allow that conscious, loving breath to flow in and out through your heart, I invite you to imagine a regenerative emotion. Perhaps it's love, joy, compassion. Just to hold and radiate that emotion that you're holding in your heart. And to breathe it in, breathe it out. And as we breathe out, I just ask you to send this love, radiate this love out, send it out 1,000-fold to every person in your life, even the people you don't want to send it to, make sure to send it to them too. And then open yourself up to receive all of that love, all of that light, receive it back, and know that you are worth loving. Thank you.